The night shift at the Solara research facility was always silent after midnight. The hallways glowed faint blue from the overhead lights, and the air smelled faintly of disinfectant. Tom, the human janitor, moved slowly with his mop and bucket. He was used to quiet nights. He liked them. They helped him forget the noise of the past. Tom was a single father. His son Leo was 10 years old and stayed with him in a small apartment near the edge of the city. Life had not been easy after his wife's illness, but Tom never complained. He worked every night, cleaned every corner, made sure Leo never went to bed hungry. Solara facility was not an ordinary place. It was half research station, half embassy between humans and the alien race called the Villari. The Villari had come to Earth 10 years ago, peaceful and wise. They looked almost human, but had faint silver marks under their eyes and skin that shimmered faintly in the light. They spoke softly, moved gracefully, and lived longer than humans. Tom did not talk much to them. He was a janitor, not a scientist. Still, he respected them. Every night he cleaned their hallways, their labs, their meeting rooms, and every night he saw one particular Villari woman who never failed to greet him kindly. Her name was Lyra. Lyra worked in the medical wing. She was quiet, polite, and always looked tired. Her eyes were silver gray, and her long pale hair was tied neatly behind her head. Sometimes she stayed late in her lab, studying something behind sealed glass walls. Tom never asked what she was doing, but one night curiosity got the better of him. He was mopping near her lab when he heard soft humming. It was not a machine. It was a song. The tune was gentle, almost like a lullaby. He turned slightly and saw through the glass that Lyra was not alone. She was sitting beside a small figure lying on a bed, a child. Tom froze. The little one had the same shimmering skin, the same faint silver lines under her eyes. Her hair was short and white as snow. She looked no older than 6. Lyra was touching her forehead gently, whispering something. Then she turned and saw Tom outside. He panicked and stepped back. But Lyra only smiled faintly and pressed a button to open the door. "You can come in," she said softly. Tom hesitated, then pushed his mop aside and entered. The air inside the lab was cooler and smelled of strange herbs. The child on the bed was awake, but her eyes were closed. "This is my daughter," Lyra said quietly. "Her name is Nira." Tom smiled awkwardly. "She's beautiful," he said. Lyra nodded. "She was born with a condition. Her eyes cannot see." Tom looked at the child again. Her eyelids fluttered slightly, as if reacting to sound. He felt a small tug in his chest. Maybe because she reminded him of Leo when he was sick as a baby. "I'm sorry," he said softly. Lyra shook her head. "She has learned to live without sight. She feels everything around her. She listens. She remembers. I am proud of her." Tom noticed how Lyra's hand trembled slightly as she stroked her daughter's hair. There was sadness in her voice. After that night, Tom often found himself passing by Lyra's lab on purpose. Sometimes he heard the little girl humming softly. Sometimes he heard Lyra talking to her in the Villari language. The words sounded like music. One night, a sudden thunderstorm hit the area. The power flickered in the facility. Emergency lights turned red. Tom hurried down the hall to check for leaks or broken systems. He reached Lyra's section and found her standing near the door. Worried. "The backup power for the medical wing is unstable," she said. "I need to secure Nira's chamber." Tom nodded and followed her. The lab was dark except for the soft blue light coming from Nira's bed. She was awake, sitting upright, her hands clasped together. "It's all right," Lyra whispered to her. "The storm will pass soon." Tom checked the power unit near the wall. A fuse had blown. He quickly replaced it with a spare from his cart. As he worked, he noticed Nira tilt her head toward him. "You are the one who cleans," she said in a quiet voice. Tom smiled. "Yes, I'm Tom. You have a good memory." "I can hear your footsteps every night," she said. "They sound steady." Lyra smiled faintly. "She remembers sounds very well." Tom nodded and tightened the last screw. Power should be fine now. As he stood up, Nira lifted her small hands toward him. "Can I touch your face?" she asked. Tom hesitated, but then leaned down. Her fingers brushed against his cheek, his nose, his chin. She smiled softly. "You have kind skin," she said. Lyra's eyes glistened. "She means you feel kind," she explained. Tom chuckled gently. "That's a nice thing to say." After that night, something changed. Lyra began to talk to Tom more often. She told him about her world, about how Veilari children could sense emotions in ways humans could not. She told him how their planet once had bright twin suns that damaged their sight over generations, making many Veilari sensitive to light, but Nira's blindness was different. It was total, not caused by light. Lyra said she was born that way, and no medicine or healing light could fix it. Tom listened quietly. He did not understand science, but he understood pain. He knew what it was like to feel helpless when someone you love was sick. Days passed, and rumors began to spread among the human staff. Some said the Veilari were hiding something in their medical wing. Some said they were experimenting with forbidden energy. Tom ignored the gossip. He trusted Lyra. One evening, as Tom was finishing his rounds, he found Lyra sitting outside the lab with her head in her hands. Her eyes were red. "Are you all right?" he asked. She looked up slowly. "Nira's condition is getting worse. Her body is reacting strangely. Her skin temperature changes, and her heart rhythm is unusual. The council wants me to move her to the main Veilari base on the moon for study." "That's far away," Lyra nodded. "I don't want to. She is too weak to travel, but the council does not listen to a mother's heart." Tom sat beside her quietly. "If you need help, I'll do what I can," he said. She gave him a tired smile. "You already help more than you know." A few nights later, something strange happened. Tom was cleaning the lower corridor when he saw a light flicker through the vents. It was not the usual blue or white light of the facility. It was golden, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. He followed it to the medical wing. Lyra's door was slightly open. He knocked softly, but got no answer. Inside, Nira was sitting upright on her bed. Her eyes were open. For the first time, Tom saw them glowing faintly with golden light. "Nira," he whispered. She turned her head toward him, though she still seemed unable to see. "It hurts," she whispered. "The voices are too loud." Tom rushed to call Lyra, who came running from the corridor. She held her daughter tightly, whispering words in the Veilari language. Slowly, the golden glow faded, and Nira relaxed again. "What was that?" Tom asked softly. Lyra looked shaken. "I don't know. This never happened before." She examined Nira carefully, then looked at Tom with fear in her eyes. "Please don't tell anyone what you saw. They will take her away if they find out." Tom nodded. "I won't say a word." That night he could not sleep. He kept thinking of the golden light. It was not like anything he had seen before. It felt alive, almost like it was reacting to Nira's emotions. The next day, Tom brought a small carved toy from home for Nira. It was an old wooden bird Leo had outgrown. Nira smiled when she touched it. "It feels like it wants to fly," she said. Tom chuckled. "Maybe it does." Lyra watched quietly. "She likes you," she said. "She does not open up to others easily." "I like her too," Tom replied simply. For a few days, everything seemed calm again. But Lyra's worry never left her eyes. She spent long hours studying energy readings from her daughter's room. Tom sometimes saw her whispering to other Veilari doctors with serious faces. Then one night, alarms rang through the facility. The red lights flashed again. Tom grabbed his cleaning tools and ran to the medical wing. Smoke filled the hallway. Something had overloaded. He burst into Lyra's lab and saw her kneeling beside her daughter's bed. The instruments around them were sparking. Nira was trembling, her body surrounded by a faint golden aura. Lyra looked up in panic. "The energy is reacting again. I can't control it." Tom rushed forward. "What can I do?" "Unplug the main conduit," she shouted. Behind the wall, did not think twice. He yanked the cable from the socket. Sparks flew, and the lights went out completely. For a moment, there was silence. When the emergency lights turned on again, Nira was calm. The golden glow was gone. Lyra was holding her tightly, crying softly. Tom looked at them both and realized something deep inside him. Nira was not blind by nature. Something else was blocking her sight, something powerful and strange. He looked at Lyra and said quietly, "She's not blind, is she?" Lyra froze, her eyes wide with fear. The silence that followed was heavy. Tom could hear the distant rumble of the storm outside. But all that mattered was the truth shining faintly behind Lyra's eyes. And for the first time, he knew this was only the beginning. Tom could not forget what he had seen that night. The golden light in Nira's eyes burned inside his memory like a quiet flame. He had seen many strange things while working in the Solera facility, but nothing like this. It was not a machine or a trick. It was alive, real, and powerful. The next morning, he was cleaning the upper hallway when two human officers walked by. They were talking about the energy surge from the night before. One of the Valari labs almost overloaded the main grid. The council wants a full report. Tom kept his head down and pushed his mop slowly. He hoped they would not connect it to Lyra and Nira. That evening, he went to check on them. Lyra looked exhausted. Her eyes were red from crying, and her voice was weak. Nira was asleep, wrapped in a soft blanket. "She is stable now," Lyra said quietly. "But something is changing inside her. Her energy levels rise every night." Tom frowned. "What kind of energy?" Lyra hesitated before answering. "It is a type of Valar light energy that should not exist in one so young. It reacts to emotions. When she feels fear or pain, it wakes." Tom remembered the night of the storm, the way the golden light pulsed when Nira was frightened. "So the light is part of her," he said. Lyra nodded. "Yes. And that is why she cannot see. Her eyes are not blind. They are closed by the light within her. The energy covers her sight, protecting the world from seeing what she holds." Tom stood still. Protecting the world from her? Or protecting her from the world? Lyra looked at him sadly. Both. She walked to the window and looked at the city lights below. "The council does not know the full truth. If they learn about this energy, they will take her away for study. They will call it dangerous." Tom clenched his hands. "You think they will hurt her?" "They will not mean to," Lyra said softly. "But they will not understand. To them, she will be a tool, not a child." Tom felt a wave of anger rise inside him. He had seen enough of how people treated those who were weak or different. He would not let that happen to a little girl who only wanted peace. Over the next few days, Tom kept close watch on the medical wing. He noticed more Valari guards around the corridors. Scientists whispered in corners. Something was happening behind closed doors. One afternoon, while cleaning the storage room, Tom overheard two Valari doctors speaking in low voices. "The readings from the child are off the charts," one said. "Her energy waves are not natural. They resemble pre-stellar radiation." "That cannot be," the other replied. "Such energy exists only near stars." Tom's heart began to race. He waited until they left, then slipped away quietly. That night he visited Lyra again. "I think the other Valari are watching you," he said. Lyra sighed. "No. They want to take Nira to the moon base." "Then we have to stop them," Tom said. She looked at him in surprise. You would help me against your own people?" He smiled faintly. "I clean floors. I don't have sides, but I know what it's like to lose a child. I won't let them take yours." For the first time, Lyra's eyes softened with trust. She nodded slowly. "Thank you, Tom." That night the facility was quiet. The moon shone through the windows like silver glass. Tom went home to check on Leo before returning for his next shift. His son was asleep, clutching his small blanket. Tom brushed his hair gently and whispered, "Sleep well, kiddo." He left quietly, but something followed him in his thoughts. The way Nira's golden light had felt warm instead of dangerous. It reminded him of sunlight through water. It was not just power, it was life. When Tom reached the facility again, the air was tense. Two human security officers were standing near the Valari wing. They nodded at him but said nothing. He felt their eyes follow him as he passed. He found Lyra pacing near her lab. "They came this morning," she said. "The council ordered her transfer tomorrow." Tom looked toward the sleeping child. "We can't let that happen." Lyra bit her lip. "If I refuse, they will remove me from my post." "They might even arrest me," Tom thought for a moment. "What if she's too sick to move?" Lyra frowned. "They will still take her. They have their own doctors." He looked around the room. "Then we hide her." Lyra stared at him. "Hide her? Where?" "In plain sight," Tom said. "There is a maintenance chamber near the power conduits. No one goes there but me. It is shielded from scanners because of the metal walls."
Lyra hesitated.
"It is dangerous." "It is safer than the council," Tom said. After a long silence, she nodded. "We will move her tonight." When the night deepened and the corridors emptied, Tom wheeled his cleaning cart toward the medical wing. Inside the cart, beneath the cleaning cloths, was a portable air filter and small oxygen tank. Lyra carried Nira wrapped in a soft white blanket. The child was awake but calm. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. "To a quiet place," Lyra said gently. "You must rest for a while." Nira smiled faintly. "The light inside me feels sleepy." Tom led them through the back corridor. The hum of the air vents covered their footsteps. They reached the maintenance chamber and entered quietly. It was small, filled with tools and old machines, but warm and dry. Tom laid out a mattress from the storage unit while Lyra set up the oxygen filter. She held Nira close and whispered something in the Valeray language. The child closed her eyes and fell asleep almost at once. Lyra looked at Tom. "We cannot stay here long." "I know," he said. "Just until we think of something." For a moment they stood in silence, listening to the soft sound of Nira's breathing. The next morning the entire facility was in chaos. The Valeray Council team arrived early and demanded access to the medical wing. When they found the chamber empty, they sounded an alarm. Tom pretended to be surprised when questioned. He said he had been cleaning the upper levels all night. The officers had no proof to suspect him. Meanwhile, Lyra stayed hidden in the maintenance room. She used a small communicator to listen to the council's messages. Her face grew pale as she heard their orders. "They believe someone took her," she whispered. "They will search every corner." Tom sat down on a crate and rubbed his forehead. "Then we need a plan fast." Suddenly Nira stirred and sat up. Her eyes glowed faintly again, but not as bright as before. "They are close," she said. "I can feel their steps." Lyra turned to her. "How do you know that?" "The light tells me," Nira said simply. "It whispers when people come." Tom stared at her. "Can the light hear through walls?" Nira nodded. "It can hear everything. It listens to hearts." Lyra knelt beside her. "Can you hide your light, Nira? Just for a while?" "I can try," the child whispered. She took a deep breath, and slowly the golden glow faded from her skin. The air felt cooler, calmer. Tom exhaled in relief. "Good job, kid." "Right." But then a loud noise came from the hallway. Heavy footsteps approached. Someone was checking the maintenance chambers. Lyra's eyes widened. "They are scanning the rooms." Tom looked around quickly. There was a hidden panel behind the power conduit that led to a narrow service tunnel. He opened it and motioned for them to crawl inside. Lyra went first, holding Nira close. Tom followed and shut the panel behind him. The tunnel was dark and dusty. He turned on a small flashlight from his belt. They moved silently through the narrow passage until they reached an opening that led to the lower storage level. Tom helped them out carefully. "This place connects to the old transport hangar," he whispered. "Nobody uses it anymore." Lyra nodded. "We can rest there." They moved again, keeping to the shadows. Nira walked between them, holding both their hands. She seemed calm now, as if the light inside her was guiding them. When they reached the hangar, Tom opened the door quietly. Inside were old vehicles and empty crates. Dust floated in the air like silver mist. Lyra laid Nira down on a blanket and sat beside her. Tom sat nearby, listening to the faint hum of the facility above. "Thank you," Lyra said softly. "You are risking everything for us." Tom shook his head. You don't owe me anything. I just don't like seeing good people hurt. She looked at him quietly. You are a rare human, Tom. He smiled faintly. I just try to be a good father. Nira opened her eyes again and looked toward them, though she could not see. Tom, she whispered, your son dreams of the sea. Tom froze. What did you say? The light shows me things, she said. Your son dreams of waves in a boat. He is waiting for you. Lyra's eyes widened. She can sense through the light. She sees beyond walls, beyond distance. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Then she's more than special. She's something new. A sharp sound echoed from the hall above. Voices. Search teams were closing in again. Lyra stood and took Nira's hand. We must leave before they find us. Tom looked toward the far gate that led to the outside valley. Follow me. There is an old service lift that opens near the cliffs. It will take us out of the facility. They ran through the hangar, their footsteps echoing softly. The alarm started again. Red lights flashed overhead. Tom pressed the lift button, and the door opened with a hiss. He pushed Lyra and Nira inside and followed just as the voices reached the corridor. As the lift descended, Nira held tightly to her mother's hand. The light is awake again, she whispered. Lyra looked at her with fear and hope mixed in her eyes. Stay calm, my love. We will keep you safe. Tom watched the glowing reflection in the metal walls. He did not know where this journey would lead, but deep inside, he knew one thing. The truth about Nira's light was bigger than any of them had imagined, and he was ready to face whatever came next. The service lift stopped with a dull sound, and the doors opened to a cold, rocky tunnel. A rush of fresh air filled the small space. Tom stepped out first and looked around. The tunnel led to the outside cliffs of the Silura Valley. It was dark, but he could see the faint glow of the night sky at the far end. Come on, he said quietly. We need to move before they track the lift. Lyra followed with Nira in her arms. The child looked pale, but calm. The faint golden shimmer on her skin had faded again. Though her hands still felt warm, they walked quickly through the narrow tunnel. The sound of alarms still echoed faintly behind them. When they finally stepped outside, the cold wind hit their faces. The night sky above was full of stars. The valley stretched wide below, filled with gray rocks and patches of glowing plants that moved softly in the breeze. Tom stopped for a moment to catch his breath. We made it out, he said. Lyra looked back toward the facility lights in the distance. They will find the tunnel soon. Then we should keep moving, Tom said. There's an old service cabin near the ridge. I used to rest there when I worked extra shifts. We can hide until morning. They followed a narrow path that twisted through the rocks. The wind carried the smell of dust and cold metal. Nira held her mother's hand and walked carefully, her other hand brushing the air as if she could feel her way forward through invisible threads. At one point, Tom noticed her stop and look toward the stars. What is it? He asked. They are calling, she whispered. Who? The lights, she said. The ones above the sky? Lyra placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. She sometimes speaks of voices from the stars. I thought it was only her imagination. Tom looked at the child with quiet curiosity. He wanted to ask more, but they had to keep moving. After an hour of walking, they reached the small cabin. It was half buried under a rock ledge, with a broken antenna on the roof. Tom opened the rusty door and led them inside. The room was dusty, but safe. There was an old heater in the corner and a few storage crates. Lyra placed Nira on a blanket and checked her pulse. The girl was breathing softly, her skin faintly glowing in the dark. She needs rest, Lyra said. Tom nodded. You both do. He found some old thermal packs in a box and turned on the heater. The warm air slowly filled the room. For the first time that night, they could breathe in peace. Lyra sat beside Nira, her eyes filled with both fear and love. Tom watched her quietly. He could see how much strength it took for her to keep going. She is more than a child, Lyra said softly. When I carried her inside me, I felt a warmth unlike anything I had known. The healers said it was the energy of new life, but I think it was something older. Tom listened carefully. Older? Yes, Lyra said. The Valerie believed that long ago, before we came to Earth, there was a great light that gave life to the first of our kind. It burned in the heart of our sun and connected all living things. We called it the origin flame. Some said it was lost forever when our world began to fade. But when Nero was born, I felt that same flame again. Tom's eyes widened. You think she carries that power inside her? Lyra nodded. I am certain. That is why the Council fears her. They call it dangerous because they do not understand it. Tom leaned back against the wall. Then we need to make sure they never find her. Outside, the wind howled through the cliffs. Inside the cabin, the heater hummed softly. Hours passed. Nero woke near dawn. She sat up slowly, her silver hair shining faintly in the pale light. She turned her head toward the window and smiled. The sun is rising, she said. Tom looked outside and saw the first light of morning touching the cliffs. He smiled. You can tell? I can feel the warmth, she said. The light inside me moves when the sun wakes. Lyra placed her hand over Neera's. Does it hurt? No, Neera said. It feels like home. They ate a small meal from the supplies Tom found in the crates. Afterward, Tom stepped outside to scan the valley. The Solara facility was still visible in the distance, though the searchlights had stopped. It seemed the Council had calmed the alert, but he knew they would not give up. When he returned inside, Lyra was humming a soft tune. Neera leaned against her mother, listening with a peaceful smile. Tom sat near the heater and spoke softly. When this settles, I want to take you both to my home. It's small, but we can figure out what to do next. Lyra looked unsure. It would put your son in danger. I'll protect him, Tom said. And you. I promise. There was silence for a moment. Then Lyra nodded. We will trust you. By midday, the three of them began to move again. They followed the valley road toward the lower districts of the human city. Tom had a plan. There were old service tunnels under the city connected to the waste systems. He knew every path by heart. As they walked, Neera spoke softly. There are people searching for us. They are angry. Tom looked back toward the distant facility. Can you feel them? Yes, she said. They send dark thoughts through the air. But there are others too, kind ones. They are confused. Lyra frowned. Maybe the Council is divided, and that might give us time, Tom said. They reached the edge of the valley as the sun set again. The city lights began to appear ahead, twinkling like stars trapped on the ground. Tom led them through an old service gate and into the tunnels below. The tunnels were narrow and smelled of metal and old steam. Pipes ran along the walls, dripping water. Tom turned on his small flashlight and guided them carefully. Neera held her mother's hand and walked quietly. Sometimes she would stop and tilt her head, listening to something distant. What do you hear? Tom asked once. Whispers, she said. Voices from far away. They say the light must wake. Lyra shivered slightly. She has said those words before. I do not know what they mean. Tom kept walking, his mind full of questions. He wondered if the energy inside Neera was alive, like a being of its own. If it could think and speak through her. After a long walk, they reached an abandoned section of the tunnels. There was a small underground room that once served as a storage unit. Tom opened the metal door and checked inside. It was empty, but safe. This will do for now, he said. Lyra helped Neera sit down while Tom brought in some old blankets. The air was cold but still as night settled again. Tom took out a small communicator and sent a quick message to his friend in the city's maintenance office. It was a coded message, asking for supplies without revealing their location. When he turned the device off, he noticed Neera watching him. Your heart is heavy, she said softly. Tom smiled faintly. You can tell that too? She nodded. The light listens to hearts. Lyra looked at her daughter carefully. What does my heart say? Neera tilted her head. It says you are afraid, but strong. Lyra smiled with tears in her eyes. She sees more than any of us. Tom leaned against the wall. Maybe her light is not a curse at all. Maybe it is a gift. Lyra nodded slowly. Maybe, but the world fears what it does not understand. They all fell silent. The sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnel. Later that night, Nira woke suddenly. Her eyes were open, glowing faintly again. The golden light reflected off the walls, making the room shine like dawn. Lyra rushed to her side. "What is it?" "The light is calling again," Nira whispered. "It wants to show me something." Tom knelt beside her. "Show you what?" She raised her hand, and a small beam of golden light formed in her palm. It hovered in the air like a living flame. It moved slowly, drawing shapes in the air. Tom and Lyra watched in awe as the light formed a glowing image of a great star surrounded by circles of energy. "This is the origin flame," Lyra whispered. Nira nodded. "It is waiting. It wants to come home." Tom frowned. "Home? Where is that?" Nira looked up at him, her glowing eyes calm. "Not here. But it needs help to return. It chose me because I can hear it. But now it is weak." Lyra placed a hand over her heart. "If the council finds out, they will use her to control it." Tom stood up slowly. "Then we must find a way to help her before they do." At that moment, a soft beep came from Tom's communicator. He picked it up quickly and read the message. His friend had sent a warning. "Council scouts are in the city," Tom said. "They are searching every lower district." Oh. Lyra's face turned pale. "They will find us soon." Tom looked at Nira, whose light still floated gently above her palm. "Can that light hide us?" he asked. Nira smiled faintly. "It can hide what it loves." The golden light spread outward like a soft wave. The walls shimmered, and the air felt warm. Tom blinked and saw their reflections fade. It was as if they had become invisible to the world. Moments later, footsteps echoed above. Voices called orders, but none came close. The scouts passed without sensing them. When the sound faded, the light slowly dimmed. Nira leaned against her mother, breathing softly. "It is safe now," she whispered. Lyra held her tightly. "You saved us." Tom looked at the child with deep respect. "You're stronger than any of us thought," Nira smiled sleepily. "The light helps those who help others." Tom smiled back. "Then we'll keep helping each other." As she closed her eyes, the golden shimmer faded completely. The room was quiet again. Lyra looked at Tom. "The origin flame is calling her. If it wakes fully, the world will see her as both a hope and a danger."
Oh.
Tom nodded slowly. "Then we have to be ready. Whatever comes, we protect her." Outside, far beyond the tunnels, the stars shone brighter that night. In one of them, a faint golden spark flickered, as if answering a call from Earth. The next morning came with a cold silver light covering the city. The alien child, Lyra, sat beside the window of her mother's room, her hands resting on the edge of the blanket. Her mother, Mira, was still weak but slowly gaining strength. The room smelled faintly of medicine and flowers that Tom had brought from the garden near the janitor's quarters. The hospital had allowed him to visit because both Mira and Lyra had asked for him again and again. Tom walked into the room, carrying a small tray of food. His steps were quiet, but Lyra turned her head toward him before he spoke. Her strange pale eyes seemed to know his presence. It was no longer possible to believe she was blind. Every small sound, every breath, she followed, as if she could see everything around her. Mira watched her daughter carefully. There was a soft fear inside her heart mixed with hope. The idea that her child might not be blind after all gave her joy, but also confusion. If Lyra could see, why had she lived in darkness all this time? Tom placed the tray down and smiled gently. "Morning, Mira." "Morning, Lyra. I brought warm bread and fruit juice." "The doctor said you can have this today." Myra nodded and thanked him. She noticed again how gentle he was, never forcing conversation, always showing respect. When he helped Lyra sit up, his hand brushed against hers. For a moment, he felt a strange spark, like a soft pulse of energy moving through his fingers. Lyra's eyes flickered faintly, as if reacting to that small touch. Tom pulled back slightly, startled. "Did you feel that?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head. Your hand was warm. It was like light touched me. Mira's heart started to beat faster. Light, she whispered. Lyra, what do you mean by light? The little girl frowned in thought. When he touches something, I can feel colors in the air. I see with the warmth. Tom and Myra looked at each other, both realizing the same thing. Lyra was not blind in the way humans or aliens understood blindness. Her eyes did not see with light like theirs. She saw through energy, through living warmth. After breakfast, Tom went to the maintenance area of the hospital. His mind kept replaying the words of the child. She sees through warmth. That meant her people must sense life in another way. Maybe her blindness was never real. It's only different from human vision. He found an old device in the storeroom, one used for detecting temperature in machinery. He had used it many times to check overheating pipes. He decided to test a small idea. Later that day, when he returned to Mira's room, he brought the device with him. Lyra, I want to try something, if that's all right. Mira looked worried. Is it safe? Tom nodded. Completely safe. It just shows temperature. Maybe it will help us understand her better? He switched on the small screen and pointed it toward his hand. The image glowed in bright shades. He lowered it so Lyra could touch the edge of the device. What do you feel? He asked. Lyra placed her palm near it. Her eyes turned brighter for a second. It is warm. It moves like you do. I can see the same color in your hand when you hold mine. Tom smiled slowly. That's it. You can see energy, not light. Mira covered her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. All these years I thought she lived in darkness, but she was seeing in her own way. I never understood her world. Lyra reached for her mother's hand. You could not see my colors either, Mama, so we were both blind. Her small words touched both adults deeply. Tom felt his chest tighten. The child's understanding of the world was pure and painful. He looked at Mira and saw the sorrow in her eyes begin to change into quiet strength. That evening, when the sky turned deep blue, Tom helped Mira walk a little down the hallway for the first time. Lyra followed, holding her mother's hand. The doctors nodded approvingly as she took small steps. For the first time in many weeks, Mira smiled without fear as they walked. Tom noticed a strange flicker of light around Lyra's hands. It was faint, but real, like a shimmer in the air. He thought it might be a reflection, but when she touched the wall, that shimmer left a small glowing mark. Lyra, can you see that glow? Tom asked softly. She nodded. It is my color. It helps me not lose the path. Mira was surprised. She has been leaving these marks everywhere she walks. That must be how she finds her way. Tom looked closely. Then she is using some kind of natural energy to see. Over the next few days, he observed carefully. Lyra began to trust him more and told him things she had never told anyone. She said that when she was little, before her eyes changed, she used to see both light and energy. But one day, after a strange storm over their city, her vision turned into pure, colorless light. Everyone said she was blind, and she believed them. Mira listened to her daughter's story with tears in her eyes. She realized the storm must have affected their kind's energy sense. It was something no doctor from her world had ever understood. Tom promised to help them find answers. He contacted a human researcher he once cleaned for, a scientist who studied radiation and energy patterns. The man agreed to meet them privately. When the day came, Tom guided Mira and Lyra to the old observatory outside the city. The building was dusty and quiet, filled with old machines and glass tubes. The scientist, Dr. Rule, greeted them kindly. He was a thin man with calm eyes. Tom explained everything he had seen. The doctor listened carefully, his eyes bright with curiosity. Then he asked Lyra to stand before a special scanner. As the machine hummed, strange patterns appeared on the screen. Her body gave off light, not from heat, but from another kind of field. The doctor leaned closer, amazed. She is emitting something unknown. It is not human heat or alien radiation. It is a fusion of both. Mira looked confused. What does that mean? Dr. Rule turned to her. It means your daughter may have adapted to both worlds. She can sense life in ways we cannot measure. Her eyes are not broken. They are evolving. The words filled the room with silence. Myra's heart raced with awe and fear. Tom watched Lyra, who smiled softly as if she already knew. After the test, Dr. Rule thanked them and promised to study the results further. On the way back, Myra kept glancing at Tom. "You were the first to see the truth about her. Even with all my knowledge, I could not see what you saw." Tom looked away shyly. Sometimes simple eyes see what science misses. That night, a strong wind moved across the city. Myra could not sleep. She looked out the window at the stars and wondered what destiny awaited her child. Then she noticed Lyra standing quietly near the balcony. "What are you doing?" "Dear Myra," asked softly. "I am listening to the stars," Lyra said. "They sound different now. They are calling me. I think they know I can see them again." Myra walked to her and hugged her tightly. "You will not leave me, will you?" Lyra smiled. "No, Mama, but I think we must go somewhere soon. There is a reason I was born this way." Tom came to check on them early next morning. The moment he entered, Lyra looked up and said, "The light is changing. Something big is coming." Her voice was calm but sure. Myra looked at Tom with worry. He nodded slowly. The strange warmth in the air told him she might be right. As the city woke under the morning sun, strange sounds echoed in the distance. It was not thunder or storm. It was something new. The walls trembled lightly. Lyra stood still, her glowing eyes facing the sky. Myra whispered. "What is it?" Lyra answered softly. "The storm that took my sight once is coming back. But this time I can see it." Tom stepped forward and placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then we face it together." The mother, the daughter, and the human janitor stood side by side as the strange light began to grow outside the window, marking the beginning of something far greater than they had ever imagined. The sky turned silver as the storm returned. It did not come with rain or wind, but with a strange humming sound that filled the air. The buildings around the hospital began to flicker with light, as if the world itself was breathing. Myra held Lyra's hand tightly, her heart beating fast. Tom stood near them, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He had seen many storms in his life, but nothing like this one. The clouds were not clouds anymore. They were waves of glowing mist, shifting between colors that no human eye had seen before. The light spread through the city like water, soft yet powerful. People looked up from the streets, unsure whether to run or stay. The air felt alive inside the hospital room. The lights went out. Only the glow from the storm remained, painting the walls in shades of blue and white. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered, "It feels the same as before, but I am not afraid now." Myra knelt beside her daughter. "You said this storm took your sight before? Do you think it can hurt you again?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, Mama. It is not trying to hurt. It is trying to speak." Tom frowned. "Speak? How can a storm speak?" Lyra turned toward him. "Not with words. With feeling. It wants to be seen." Tom looked out the window again. The glowing air was moving like waves in the sea. He noticed that every time Lyra spoke, the light outside pulsed softly as if answering her voice. He realized she was somehow connected to it. Myra stood up, fear mixing with wonder. "What is it trying to tell us?" Before anyone could answer, a loud vibration ran through the building. The walls shook, and a few glass pieces fell from the shelves. Alarms began to ring in distant corridors. Tom ran to the hallway and saw doctors rushing patients toward the basement. He returned quickly. "We need to get to safety. The storm might cause damage." But Lyra stood near the window, calm and still. "We cannot hide from it. It is calling me outside." Myra reached for her. "No, you cannot go out there. It could be dangerous." Lyra held her mother's hand and smiled. "You said I was special because I survived once. Maybe I survived for a reason. I think I can stop it from hurting anyone this time." Tom felt something strong in his chest. "If you go, I go with you." Myra looked between them. Fear battled with faith inside her. She wanted to protect her child, but she knew she could not stop destiny. She nodded slowly. "Then we go together." They stepped out of the room into the glowing hallway. The air shimmered like liquid light. Every sound was distant, as if they were underwater. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter with every step. Her bare feet left faint trails of white light on the floor. When they reached the hospital garden, the storm was directly above. The sky spun like a vast whirlpool of light. The trees bent gently, not from wind, but from invisible pressure. Lyra looked up, her face calm. Tom placed a hand on her shoulder. "What do you see?" she answered softly. "Shapes, movements, voices made of light. They look like my people, but not like us anymore." "They are part of the storm," Mira whispered. "Souls of your kind." Lyra nodded. "Maybe they are lost between our world and the stars." When the storm first came, they changed. Some became light, some vanished. I think I was touched by them, that is why I see this way. Tom felt cold air pass over him. The light around them seemed to react to Lyra's heartbeat. It moved closer, curling like ribbons of silver mist. He saw faint outlines forming in it, figures tall and graceful, with eyes like stars. One of them moved closer to Lyra and spoke in a voice that was not sound but vibration. Tom could feel it in his bones. Lyra understood it clearly. "It says they cannot return," she whispered. "Their world is gone, but they can stay in me. They can use my light to survive." Mira stepped forward. "What will that do to you?" Lyra looked back at her mother. "It will not hurt. It will make me whole." The light figures began to swirl around her, and the storm brightened. Tom shielded Mira with his arm as the glow became too strong to look at. Lyra's body lifted slightly from the ground, her hair floating like threads of silver. Mira cried out. "Lyra!" The sound echoed in the garden, but Lyra was smiling. The figures entered her body like sparks returning to a flame. The storm above began to calm, the colors fading into soft blue. Slowly, she lowered back to the ground. The glow around her stayed gentle, not fierce. Tom ran to her side, catching her before she fell. Her breathing was steady, her eyes clear and bright. She looked at her mother and whispered, "I can see you, Mama." Then tears ran down her cheeks. She held her daughter close, feeling her heartbeat. "You can really see me," Lyra nodded. "Your light is beautiful." The storm continued to fade until only a pale mist remained in the sky. The city slowly regained power. People began to come out of their homes, confused but unharmed. The air smelled fresh, like rain after a long drought. Tom sat with Myra and Lyra in the quiet garden. The hospital staff soon found them, surprised to see that the storm had done no harm. The trees were still standing, the walls untouched. It was as if the light had passed through them without destruction. Dr. Rule arrived later with his instruments, his face pale with shock. "The readings are impossible," he said. The storm released energy equal to a small sun, but it caused no heat or radiation. It was absorbed by something. Tom looked at Lyra. "Someone," he corrected gently. Lyra smiled shyly. "I think they are gone now, but part of them will always live in me. I can see the world like everyone else now, but I can also see what lies inside things, the warmth, the color of life." Days turned into weeks. Mira recovered completely, and Lyra's vision stayed strong. The story of the strange storm spread through the city, but no one knew the full truth except for the three of them. One afternoon, Tom was sweeping the school courtyard where he worked again. He heard small footsteps behind him and turned to see Lyra carrying a small flower pot. She smiled. "Mama said this plant will grow better here. It likes sunlight and kindness." Tom laughed. Then it came to the right place. He planted the small flower near the fountain. Lyra placed her hand over the soil, and a faint glow passed through her fingers. The flower bloomed faster than it should have. Tom watched in wonder. "Still full of light?" "I see." Lyra nodded. "It listens when I am gentle." "Just like you did." Tom's heart warmed at her words. For the first time in many years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. He had lived most of his life cleaning places others forgot, but now he realized he had helped clean something far greater, the shadow over a child's heart. Mira joined them later, carrying a basket of food. She looked healthier, her eyes bright with peace. "You do make a good team," she said. Tom smiled. We just do what needs to be done." They sat together, eating quietly as the sun set. The sky glowed with the same soft colors that once filled the storm. But now it was calm and beautiful. As night fell, Lyra looked up at the stars. "They look different now," she said. Mira asked. "How different they used to look far away," Lyra answered. "Now they look like friends." Tom looked at her and then at the stars. "Maybe they are watching over you," Lyra smiled. "Maybe they are watching over all of us." When darkness covered the city, a faint shimmer passed through the sky like a whisper of the storm that once was. It was gentle, peaceful, and full of memory. Tom walked home that night feeling lighter than ever before. He had entered a story of light and loss, and somehow found hope inside it. He looked up once more and saw a faint glow following him on the path, a small mark left by Lyra's light. He smiled and kept walking, knowing that some miracles never fade, and somewhere above the quiet city, beyond the clouds and the stars, the lost lights of Lyra's people shone again, not as a storm, but as a promise that even in the darkest worlds, there is always someone who can see the warmth inside.